Hi, my name's Hannah. This is my friend Louis.
Hello.
Today we're going to talk to you about returning to university as mature students and how it's going.
Question number one.
Question number one. Why? Louis, why did you decide to come back to university as a mature student?
I had a job. I was working in sports nutrition, but I felt that it wasn't my passion. So I wanted a job where I could combine my academic interests with my day-to-day activities.
So why am I returning?
Yeah, why are you returning?
I'm returning to try and pursue a passion that I've had from a young age, that I wrote off pretty much every level of my academic life. But since I graduated, it's something I couldn't get out of my head. And there was no way I could avoid not coming back to university. Because I want to be a physicist.
Next question. What were your fears of quitting your job and removing yourself from income and starting a new degree?
Myriad. I honestly don't know where to begin. Financial, huge burden. I mean, the biggest obstacle, never mind the biggest fear, was how the hell do you pay for a second degree? Being older than everybody else and having experienced it before, would I be able to fit in? And maybe even relationships with lecturers, how would they treat you and how would you be able to speak to them? What about you fitting in, because you work in an office that's mostly PhD students, am I?
Because I'm doing a Masters by Research, it's slightly different to a taught Masters, which is more of a...
Okay.
What was I saying? For me, because I'm a research masters, which is slightly different to a taught masters, my work environment is very much like that of an office.
Yeah. We've both left careers. What risk did that carry?
First of all, my boss was very supportive. He completely understood that, I wanted to follow my passion of sociolinguistics online. Yeah, it just rolls off the tongue so easily. My family were very supportive, especially when they found out that I could qualify for a grant. And then they're like, okay, well then, you're not going to be bankrolled by the bank of mum and dad.
Did you feel like you were taking a step back or a step sideways or a step forward or nothing?
A sideways step. But for long-term gain.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I feel similarly.
Definitely.
I'd say mine is probably one step back, two steps forward kind of thing. Not only did I finish a degree, but I'm starting from a year zero instead of a year one. Yeah. Although there will be 4 years where I might not have much money at all, if I then went straight into graduate employment, I'd probably be earning much more than I ever would have earned in the previous career I had. So I think the risks are worth it. How did you find adapting to university life again?
Well, it's quite easy to adapt yourself to lying in every morning. No. I find that starting a postgraduate degree after having worked for 3 years, you've trained yourself to put in the effort, and the difference is that you're doing something that you really, really, really want to do. So
you won't be there.
Exactly. I don't begrudge keeping office hours.
That was a preconception and perhaps a misconception that this time around I'd be able to fit my undergraduate degree into a nice 9-to-5 slot, including doing all of my revision and writing up notes and doing questions, and then it would be in a nice little 9-to-5 box. But university life socially, I feel like I've got a nice set of friends. I've gone from a job where I had friends who were colleagues, who are still friends, and I've moved into a weird job where I have new colleagues and I socialise with them occasionally.
Yes, I suppose that is a big difference because we've both got
We've got lives here.
We have lives here, yes. You more so than me. I find socially I have my group of friends that are not necessarily from university.
Yeah.
Although, of course, we know each other through university the first time around. I think the biggest difference is that you can no longer bond over childhood TV. I think that's kind of. I think that's the main difference. Returning back, the people in your peer group,
What did I say to
you'll have
someone
different experiences, and you can't. Their first Pokemon game is different to your first Pokemon game. So.
I think I mentioned Timmy Mallet to someone the other day.
What 18-year-old has heard of Timmy Mallet? Final question. Now that you've started your new degree afresh, how has it now affected your short-term plans, and then how have those short-term plans been affecting your long-term plans for the future?
Well, I think probably the first short-term plan or result of 6 months in is that I can do this. That fear has dissipated now. I can keep going forward because there was such a big gap from GCSE to this point, and I've climbed that so far. I'm in love with it more than I was the idea of it, so that's nice.
That's biggest benefit right there.
Definitely. Because I'm a mature student, or because I've got the experience I have, and because I feel like I've delayed my start somewhat, I'm trying my hardest to get as much experience as possible, so that if I decide to leave after undergrad or progress to PhD, that I can kind of hit the ground running with good relevant experience. Such as, I have an internship in April for 4 weeks with one of the professors at the university that I'll be vlogging about. The future looks bright.
Mm-hmm.
I could eventually go to Sweden or the Netherlands. We'll see what happens with that. Long term, it could go many ways, but I'm trying to keep my options open. I'd like to go into science and communication. I'd like to go in research. That would probably mean a PhD. Or I'm not writing off working in industry. How about you?
As with you, I have enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would be enjoying it. I love getting stuck into my academic work, and mainly because everyone's like, what actually are you doing? Do you just spend all your time looking at Facebook in German? So, which is true, yes I do. With a master's, it means that I can get a job in Germany at a high enough level. But also, I've applied for a PhD here at the University of Nottingham.
Woohoo! Well, thank you, Louis, for taking your time out from your very busy day.
Thank you for having me.
To be here, even though you live in this house.
Yeah.
If you've got any questions that you'd like to ask me or Louis, then comment below. If you liked the video, then give it a thumbs up. And that's all. So we're going to go now. I'm going to go and eat pizza and drink cocktails. Because it's my birthday! Okay, bye!
Bye!